The moment the CEO's sharp voice cut through the cabin at 30,000 feet, the entire first-class section went quiet. Passengers turned their heads as a uniformed janitor stood frozen in the aisle, holding a mop he hadn't yet put away. He had been cleaning a spill near the lavatory when she recognized him from the company badge clipped to his chest. Her eyes hardened with instant judgment, and in that thin, humiliating moment, his life began to unravel in midair, suspended between clouds and consequences he never saw coming. Before the story goes any further, let me ask you something. If you believe kindness still matters in a world that moves too fast to notice quiet heroes, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone you love, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. His name was Daniel Reyes, and he was a single father who cleaned offices at night and airplanes by day. He didn't complain about the work, even when his hands cracked from chemicals or his back screamed after long shifts. Every job he took was another step toward keeping a promise he'd made to his daughter after her mother passed away, that she would never feel alone or unsafe, no matter how hard life became. Daniel wore his janitor uniform with quiet dignity because to him it wasn't a symbol of failure, but of survival. That morning, he'd boarded the private corporate jet as part of a contracted cleaning crew, unaware that the company's CEO, Margaret Hale, would be on board. Margaret was known for her ruthless efficiency and icy standards. She built an empire by never tolerating mistakes, never slowing down, and never looking twice at people she deemed invisible. When she saw Daniel cleaning near the first-class area during turbulence, she assumed incompetence, disruption, and liability all wrapped into one. She didn't ask questions. She didn't listen. She fired him on the spot, loudly in front of everyone, her words slicing through him sharper than any insult he'd endured before. Security escorted him to the back of the plane, where he stood quietly, staring at the floor, thinking not about his pride, but about his daughter Sophia, waiting at home with her homework spread across the kitchen table. Daniel didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply nodded, apologized for the disturbance, and returned the cleaning supplies. What no one noticed was the way his eyes kept drifting toward a little girl seated 2 rows ahead of Margaret. The child looked pale, her breathing shallow, her small hands gripping the armrest as if the plane itself frightened her. Daniel recognized that look instantly. He'd seen it in Sophia once, during a long bus ride when she'd had a severe asthma attack. As the flight continued, turbulence worsened. The seatbelt sign flashed on, and flight attendants hurried through the aisle. Margaret was buried in emails, unaware that her daughter Lily's face had gone from pale to gray. Lily tried to call out, but her voice was lost in the roar of the engines. Her chest tightened, panic flooding her body faster than the thin air outside the plane. Daniel noticed the signs before anyone else. The way Lily's shoulders lifted sharply with each breath. The glassy fear in her eyes. The subtle wheeze that no one else could hear. His heart began to pound. He knew that sound. He knew that fear. He didn't think about the fact that he'd been fired minutes earlier. He didn't think about the rules. He only thought about one thing, a child who needed help. Ignoring the stares and whispers, Daniel moved forward. A flight attendant tried to stop him, but he spoke quickly, calmly, explaining what he saw. There was urgency in his voice, not anger. Instinct took over. He knelt beside Lily, guiding her gently, helping her slow her breathing the way he'd done countless times with his own daughter. He instructed the attendant to bring the emergency medical kit and asked if Lily had an inhaler. Margaret finally looked up, irritation flashing across her face, ready to demand why the man she'd just fired was near her child. But the moment she saw Lily's condition, the color drained from her face. Fear replaced authority. For the first time in years, Margaret Hale wasn't a CEO in control. She was just a mother watching her child struggle to breathe. Daniel stayed calm. He spoke softly to Lily, grounding her, reminding her she wasn't alone. When the inhaler didn't provide immediate relief, he helped position her body to open her airways and signaled for oxygen support. The minutes stretched endlessly, every second hanging heavy with the possibility of disaster. Passengers watched in tense silence, realizing that the janitor they barely noticed moments ago might be the only thing standing between a child and tragedy. Eventually, Lily's breathing steadied. Color returned to her cheeks. She leaned forward, exhausted but alive, her small hand instinctively reaching for Daniel's sleeve. Relief rippled through the cabin. A flight attendant wiped away tears. Someone exhaled loudly, as if they'd been holding their breath the entire time. Margaret collapsed into her seat, trembling. She hadn't even known her daughter's asthma had worsened. She hadn't noticed the signs. She had been too busy proving herself to a world that already bowed at her feet. And the man she'd humiliated minutes earlier had saved the most important person in her life without hesitation. After the plane landed, Daniel expected nothing. He gathered his things quietly, prepared to leave and face the reality of unemployment yet again. But before he could step off the aircraft, Margaret stopped him. Her voice was different now, softer, unsteady. She thanked him, but words felt inadequate. Daniel nodded politely, already thinking about how he'd explain to Sophia why things might be harder for a while. What Margaret didn't see was Lily watching Daniel closely, her young mind processing what had happened. Children notice things adults miss. They remember who shows up when it matters. Days passed. Daniel picked up extra shifts where he could, swallowing exhaustion to keep food on the table. Sophia sensed something was wrong but didn't ask too many questions. She trusted her father the way Lily had trusted a stranger in a crisis. And that trust kept Daniel going when doubt crept in late at night. Then, one afternoon, Daniel received a call he never expected. Margaret Hale wanted to see him. Not as a janitor, as a person. He arrived at her office nervous, his best shirt ironed carefully. Margaret listened as he spoke about Sophia, about balancing work and fatherhood, about the quiet fear of falling one paycheck away from disaster. For the first time in her career, Margaret listened without interrupting. She offered Daniel his job back, but not the same one. She offered him stability, benefits, and training for a facilities management role. More importantly, she offered respect. It wasn't charity. It was acknowledgement. She admitted her mistake, openly, without excuses. That admission cost her more pride than any business loss ever had. But the most powerful moment came later, when Lily visited the office. She walked straight up to Daniel, looked him in the eyes, and whispered words that Margaret would never forget. She said he had saved her life. She said she wasn't scared anymore because she knew heroes didn't always wear uniforms people admired. Margaret understood then that success meant nothing if it blinded her to humanity. She began changing policies, investing in employee wellness, encouraging leaders to know the people behind the job titles. Daniel didn't just save Lily's life that day. He changed the culture of an entire company by doing what came naturally to him, caring. As this story comes close to its end, if it's touched your heart even a little, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who might need them most right now. And before the final moments, I have a special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. Daniel still cleans sometimes, not because he has to, but because he never forgot where he came from. Sophia is proud of him in a way that has nothing to do with titles or money. And Lily, every time she boards a plane, looks for the quiet helpers, the ones the world overlooks. Because sometimes, the person you dismiss in a moment of arrogance becomes the reason your world doesn't fall apart. And sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness echo louder than any announcement at 30,000 feet.